Welcome to Larry's Library. This time, we're looking at the Swords of Heaven, the Flowers of Hell, and this is the Titan reprint of the original graphic novel. And actually, for looking at this book here, the title is actually longer, depending on what source you go to. Depending on how you look at it, the full title could be the Michael Moorcock Library, the Swords of Heaven, the Flowers of Hell, Erekose. So, now, what this is Titan's reprint of this original graphic novel by Howard Chaykin. It originally came out in 1979. Now, I don't know who published the original edition. In fact, I had never heard of this. And I am a Michael Moorcock fan from way back, and I'm a long-term Howard Chaykin fan as well. And yet I never knew this thing existed. So this is something that flew under my radar, certainly. But it was originally published in 1979, and I don't know by what publisher. It must have been, I'm guessing it was a low print run. I don't know. And it had to be something unusual, too, in 1979 to have an original graphic novel, at least for the American market. That had to be a rarity in 1979 to have an OGN. So Titan published this as part of their Michael Moorcock Library. Now, there's no number on the spine, and really, to me, it shouldn't have a number because this is a standalone story for sure. It doesn't really, truly continue off of any of the other comic book adaptations of the Michael Moorcock works. So you can certainly read this as standalone. Now, you're going to be a little bit lost no matter where you come from because this is a very fragmentary sort of tale that just sort of picks up, but it does have a conclusion. There is an ending of sorts. Before I get too far into it, let's talk about the book itself, and I'll show you some B-roll. It's a pretty good build. It's a bit of an odd size because it's standard height, but it is wider than a standard book. And I'll show it up against one of the Image Brubaker standard size hardcovers so you can see what I'm talking about. Same height as a standard, but a little bit wider. It's not bad, and it is a pretty robust build. I've never had any problems with any of the Titan books I've had in the past, and I've got a few now, and they all seem to be pretty high quality. But this is 80 pages, so it's pretty short. Interesting note here, when I was going through to collect the information for this for my notes that I'm reading off of for stats like page count, InStockTrades.com, where I bought this, where you can still get it as a time of shooting, by the way, for $13.99. The list price is $19.99. And I think this was first published by Titan in 2018, but it seems to be evergreen, still seems to be very easy to get. So it's probably still in print. But getting back to my point here, when I went to look these stats up, In Stock Trades has this listed as 144 pages. Amazon has it listed for 80 pages. Now, like a lot of modern collected editions of hardcover comic books, there are no page numbers to be found in the book. Unfortunately, yeah, there's none at all. And I just hate that. But, so, I counted them for you. Amazon's correct. It is 80 pages. I don't know where In Stock Trades gets some of the information in their write-ups, but I find it very often wrong. Often the creators are listed wrong. Often the page count's wrong, which is odd because I love IST as much as anyone, maybe more than most. I buy most of my books from them, but they really need some help with the website listings. They really do because they are often inaccurate. Just being honest here. You come to me for my honest opinion, and I'm going to give you the honest facts as close as I can get them anyway. I'm going to try my damnedest to do it for you. So, now, about the build, again, there's no dust jacket. It's a nice glossy, the art is baked right onto the boards. It's nice. I like that a lot. I wish all comic books, hardcover comic books were that way. Don't need any dust jackets as far as I'm concerned. So the script and art in this are both by Howard Chaykin, which is another beef I have with some places like In Stock Trades, where they list the writer as Michael Moorcock. Well, I don't mind you listing Michael Moorcock as one of the writers, but he didn't write this. He did write one of the forewords, the introduction. He wrote a story and he allowed Howard Chaykin to adapt it. But the script is by Howard Chaykin, and so is the art, and all of it. He pencils, inks. In fact, I think it's painted. It looks painted to me. I'm pretty sure it's painted art. It's beautiful stuff, too, by the way. So this story involves Michael Moorcock's Multiverse universe. Multiverse, that's kind of redundant, but you know what I mean. Before the MCU started talking about multiverse and all the other pop culture things that are going on now talking about multiverse, Michael Moorcock explored that way before anyone else. I mean, that's the whole basis of all of his books, is that there is a multiverse, and that there are incarnations of various heroes doing various things at different planes at any given second. It's very trippy and a little hard to follow at times, but I think it's well worth it because it's fun. It really is. I have a great time with that. I mean, Michael Moorcock's most famous character is probably Elric of Melniboné, but this one is about Erekose. Now, Erekose, like Elric, can incarnate and sort of respawn, if you will, into different characters, into different heroes, all of them being the Eternal Champion. Okay, and sometimes they play for the side of chaos, and sometimes for the side of law, but always to set the balance, basically. Very trippy, yes it is. But in this case, the Eternal Champion spawns, if you will, like in a video game, he spawns, he awakens as Clyn of Clyngar. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it is one of the Eternal Champion incarnations of Erekose. One thing about Michael Moorcock is he specializes in very long titles and hard to pronounce names. But I think I got him right. Did a little research, and I think I got it. But I did like this a lot. Let me refresh my memory a bit. Another thing I like about the build of these Titan books, or at least this particular one for sure, is the paper is not glossy. I don't know whoever got it in their head that glossy paper was better for comic books. I say the day. This is a nice, flat, matte. There's no gloss at all. There's no sheen on this whatsoever. And it makes it a real joy to read. You don't have the glare from your lighting is bad. It's just better. It really is. I wish we could get this done to all comic books. Glossy sucks. You don't want glossy. Now, I like glossy for the cover, for sure, but not for the interior pages. But enough about the build. What is this about? Well, Clyn of Clyngar wakes up at the beginning of the story, and he has no memory at all. And it slowly comes back to him as the story progresses. And he is part of an order of knights that fight for this area called the Dream Marches. And the Dream Marches is this landmass that sits between two countries that are at war with each other all the time, apparently. One is called Heaven, the other is called Hell. Now, these don't seem like, well, they're definitely not the classical Judeo-Christian heaven and hell. Not at all. These seem like almost typical medieval countries in a sword and sorcery setting. That's what they seem like. The people of heaven are very posh, very proper, and they sort of lord it over the people in between, the peasants. And the savage barbarians, they fight for hell. And they are always fighting with each other. And it's a mess. And he finds himself in the middle of this. Now, he does carry a black magic sword. It does not seem to be Stormbringer of Elric fame. I suspect it is sort of an incarnation of that. You know, fitting with the whole multiverse thing. Not sure. Now, I have read some Eternal Champions novels by Michael Moorcock. I read the Eternal Champions, the Ace edition, I believe, and the Silver Warriors, which was the sequel to that, if I recall. But that was many decades ago, and I really don't remember much about it. I remember loving it a lot, but it might be something I should reread. It would probably inform me of some of the mysteries that's going on here and might piece some of it together. Because it is very hard to follow. Well, not really hard to follow. It's just you're not given a lot of detail as to the backgrounds of the setting and the people involved. you just sort of enter the story, and it pulls you along, and you're just taking it in. It's like a weird fantasy film that just takes off and goes, and it doesn't fill you in much along the way. You just got to experience it. And I certainly did, and I loved it. Now, the main female interest in this is painted and depicted by Howard Chaykin, based on Sophia Loren. It's pretty obvious. And, of course, she's beautiful. And I think the main character of Clint Gar is also modeled after an actor. I believe it was Burt Lancaster. So, yeah, Chaykin modeled the main character after Burt Lancaster as far as his look. Anyway, it really is some great artwork. So if you're a fan of Howard Chaykin's art, you're going to want to get this just for that alone. Even if you find the story incomprehensible, you're going to love it just for the art. The art is quite spectacular. It's a little bit murky at times. I think at times it's a little darker than I'd like to see. I'd like it to be a little brighter so I could see all those gorgeous details in this artwork. But nonetheless, it's still great, and I really love it. And Howard Chaykin is another one of those artists who has evolved and changed over the years. And it's nice to see all of the different phases he's went through. This is pretty early Howard Chaykin, but it is still quite spectacular. You can certainly see the Gil Kane influence in his art here. But it is very different, too, for Chaykin, because it's all, where I'm not used to seeing it all painted like this, or this painted style. But it is beautiful. Michael Moorcock does one of the intros, and he talks about how Howard Chaykin is one of his favorite comic book artists of the time. And he seems disdainful in it, really, as he talks about how he doesn't like a lot of the comic book art. It just seems, he doesn't use the word generic, but that is certainly the term that comes to mind the way he's describing his disdain for a lot of comic book art, but he loves Howard Chaykin. So he gave Howard Chaykin pretty much free rein to adapt this. I got the sense he would love it, whatever Howard Chaykin did with this story. And this story had never been adapted in any form before. Moorcock just gave it to Chaykin to do this short, original graphic novel. And I really loved it. I loved it a lot. It has some very strange alien depictions here that just unlike anything I've ever seen before. There's creatures in here they call angels, and they fly above. They aid him at certain times, and they look like basically manta rays, or like an alien, very strange alien, dimensional alien version of a manta ray. Very odd. I'll show some scans of it for sure. Very unusual creatures. A very unusual mix of armor and weapons is depicted throughout this. But it is pretty fun. If you're into the Michael Moorcock universes at all, you're going to want to see this. You're going to want to read this. You're going to want to own it, because it is full of that Michael Moorcock strangeness, for sure. There's a little bit of nudity in here. It is an adult original graphic novel, but it's not hugely graphic or anything. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I could have stood for it to be longer, if that could be my only criticism maybe. But it is a gorgeous looking story, and it is just filled with beautiful art, very strange characters, strange surroundings, strange environments. Another criticism I could throw at it is I do not like the choice of font that he used for the narration. Those letters, a lot of times I was like, man, is that an M or an N? The M and the N's, and the U's, they all really looked very similar. So that was a little tough for me, but you can get through it. And yeah, there's not a whole lot I can say here because I don't want to give away the plot. And not that I could anyway. No, it's not that bad. But it is strange, and it is very unusual. And I'm glad I got it, and I'm glad that Titan is reprinting this, because I never even knew this thing existed. And I'm certainly glad to have it in my collection as a Michael Moorcock fan, for sure. I think overall I give this 8 out of 10. And I say if you're interested in the Michael Moorcock world, if you've already read some Michael Moorcock stuff, or if you're a big Howard Chaykin fan, you're going to want it. And if you happen to be both like I am, then you're definitely going to get this immediately. So that's about all I want to say about this one. And I hope you like this. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next time.